How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Travis, did you ever, and I know it's not your division anymore because I need to remind you, but do you know of anybody complaining about that house on South Battery that has solar panels on the roof?
I haven't heard anything.
Okay, I'm gonna get that from the guy who found them. So,
Yeah, we got Jimmy now, so.
Yeah, Jimmy's been
Jimmy
really
hasn't
good.
mentioned
He'll
it.
make an official, like, complaint slash email.
Good afternoon and welcome to the March 13, 2020 BAR large meeting here at the Lenny Crawchat Public Meeting Room at 2 George Street. My name is John Robinson. I'm the chair this afternoon. With me are Jay White, Luda Sobchuk, James Metters, Seton Brown, and as alternate, Steve Ramos, who will join us shortly. Mr. Metters is also recusing himself on agenda on 328 Meeting Street project. City staff present with us this afternoon are BD Worthing Galvin, our city architect, Lawrence Courtney, city staff architect, and Travis Galley, preservation planner. All applicants appearing tonight have been required to submit any materials that they will show us in advance of the meeting. Staff will control the slides and the presentation. All the applicant needs to do is ask Lawrence which slide that they want to show us. All materials submitted were required to be submitted by the applicant by the applicable deadline in accordance with submittal requirements. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the City of Charleston's public meeting channel on YouTube. Your presence here is your consent to be recorded. The order of each presentation will be as follows on our agenda. First, an introduction and overview of the project by BD. That will then be followed by the applicant's presentation, which ordinarily has a 10-minute time limit unless extended by the chair. At that time, there could be any questions of the applicant from the board or staff. Any and all presenters who are speaking this evening should state their name for the record. Persons affiliated with the project, be they the architect, owner, developer, designer, or other person, should speak during this portion rather than later portions of the presentation. The applicant's presentation is followed by a public comment. All the applications are part of a public meeting. Written public comments have been disseminated to the board in advance of the meeting by the required deadline. Written comments will not be read aloud unless determined necessary by chair. Any member of the public with us this evening may, of course, approach the podium, and they have a 2-minute time limit for their remarks unless extended by the chair. The public comment portion of the meeting is then followed by city staff comments and recommendations. The applicant then has a brief response period of up to 5 minutes to clarify, respond, or correct anything contained in public comments or the city staff comments or recommendations. This is in turn followed by board discussion and a vote. The applicant's presentation is over at this point. The public comment period is closed. Now, the applicant may clarify inaccurate information when recognized by the chair by raising their hand and waiting to be called upon. Board members will be polled by the chairperson for the comments and for a vote on any given motion. Chair will reread the motion verbatim, and if I've misstated it, the board member should correct me. Each member, when voting on an agenda item, should respond yay in favor or nay not in favor for sake of clarity, rather than just yes or no. Results are posted at charleston-sc.gov/BAR. Agenda items that are withdrawn are agenda item B1, which was the 82 Mary Street demolition request, as well as agenda item B6, the 860 Morrison Drive Kempton Hotel project, withdrawn by the applicant. There has been no public comment to be disseminated to us other than what is presented here tonight. This is a friendly reminder, particularly to those members of the public with us this evening, to please silence cell phone devices or any other disruptive device. And also, the jurisdiction of this board is limited to architectural review. Comments related to zoning, parking, traffic, and lot coverage and livability concerns really can't be voiced here because of the nature of this public hearing and the administrative laws that we are subject to under the state code, the municipal code, and the South Carolina Supreme Court, of course. With that being said, we will move to agenda item B2, BD.
Well, are we doing the minutes?
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. Back to agenda item A. We didn't have minutes ready previously for the February 14th, 2024 meeting. We also have the February 28th, 2024 board meeting minutes. Can I entertain a motion to approve those minutes as published? Is Mr. Metters is also, okay, it's seconded by Mr. White. It's in proper order. Mr. Brown. In favor. Mr. Metters. Ms. Sobchuk. Mr. White. And myself getting in favor. The minutes for the 14th and 28th are approved as published. Now we can go to the agenda.
We did both.
Yep.
Agenda item B2 is 450 Meeting Street, a not rated building from 1975 in the Old Historic District, requesting approval for full demolition of 1-story brick storage building. So here's the aerial of the context. Existing site photo of the main facade. More existing photos. This is the actual building, this brick building. Context on Columbus.
Very good. Mr. Garris, before you trouble yourself too much, is there any member of the public who is here to speak on in opposition to the demolition of this property? The staff recommendations. Edie, would you mind go ahead and giving us your recommendation?
Sure. Context and analysis, the building is less than 50 years old and not rated in the architectural inventory. To support best practices in sustainability, staff recommends applicants salvage any reusable building materials and work on local opportunities for reuse so as not to have all materials end up in a landfill. We have no staff conditions for approval and approve with board conditions.
Okay, second call. Anyone speaking in opposition to this request? Not going to entertain a motion.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I visited the site yesterday and like to make a motion for approval of the motion.
Okay, incorporating
Incorporates.
staff recommendations. Very good.
Second that.
Second, it's in proper order. Mr. Brown, how do you vote? Yea in favor. Mr. Matters,
In favor.
Ms. Sobchak,
Yea.
Mr. White,
Yeah.
and myself, yea in favor. Thank you to the applicant. Save you a little trouble.
Thank you.
Good. Always good to see you. Agenda item B3.
The property is 19 St. Margaret Street, not rated from 1964. And they are requesting approval for the demolition of detached chapel building. Here's the aerial of the site. The chapel itself. Some more site photos.
Very good. And who do we have here on behalf of the applicant?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bridget Williams. I work with Flyway Development. As you said, we are proposing the accessory building at 19 St. Margaret Street to be taken down. I guess we can start with just the survey, if you don't mind. The original Florence Crittenton building was designed by architect John D. Newcomer. Construction began in 1924 and wrapped up in 1934. Both the walls and foundation of this original structure are brick. The accessory structure was built in the 60s. This is a slab on grade foundation with CMU block walls. The original structure was nominated for the National Register in 1997, citing significance in health, science, and social history. The original structure also qualified under criterion C for significance in architecture. The accessory building is listed as a non-contributing structure and therefore not the same accolade. We feel that the accessory structure was built with inferior materials and is not a contributing factor to the site or neighborhood. We do not feel there's an architectural merit to the building, nor does it complement the beautiful structure designed by Mr. Newcomer. We can jump to current photos of the detached structure, please.
Yeah.
Although you can't see much inside, the accessory building has fallen into a bit of disrepair and is currently used as a storage unit. Just judging from the character of the neighborhood, I'd be curious if that is something that would get approved today, although I recognize that's beside the point. We spoke with Lee Batchelder, who recommended that we speak with the neighborhood association. I have a letter of approval from them attached somewhere in these documents. We met with them and they were in favor of removing the structure. Planning and zoning said they would likely get behind the recommendation of the neighborhood association. That is all I have to say, so I'm happy to answer any questions as I'm able.
Very good. Good. I think we'll be back with you in 1 second. Any member of the public wishing to be heard on this agenda item? Seeing none, city staff comments or recommendations.
This property has been placed under landmark overlay status by city council due to its historic importance to the city of Charleston. This designation requires that any external changes to the property are under the purview of PAR. I'll skip over my second comment because my second comment which you've provided verbally, but that the applicant provided no historical context or materials related to the date or history of the building. So that's what we would prefer, is that we actually have those in the submitted materials, not just presented here today. So my next comment provided some of that, which you already did, which is that it, we determined both through the National Register nomination, but also through our own permitting records, 21 July 1964 is when the permit was issued for it. And is listed in the National Register nomination as a reference. The Florence Crittenden home's significance was determined based on its contributions to social history, health and medicine, and architecture. Florence Crittenden home and its associated detached chapel remain an integral part of the cultural and historic heritage of the city of Charleston. While architecturally modest, the material integrity and defining characteristics of the chapel remain and have been well cared for since being built, with minor material repairs being needed at this time. And then just as a reminder of the ordinance to all present, the board is encouraged to consider, among other things, the historic, architectural, and aesthetic features of such structure, the nature and character of the surrounding area, the historic or culturally important use of such structure, and the importance to the city. Staff recommends denial of demolition.
Thank you, BD. Any response for the applicant at this time? You have the ability to respond if you want to. Sure.
I'm Randy Beavers, also a member of Flyway Development. Our goal is to fully restore the larger structure on the site. And the current chapel, which is being used, as an accessory, for storage, basically, does impede the flow. Florence Crittenden House is in disrepair, and which is the reason why it is being, marketed for sale, because they cannot really afford to upkeep the building. Our ability to come in, make the capital improvements to preserve that larger structure is the goal. We're preservationists at heart. Bridges has a degree in historic preservation. We've won several Carroll Office awards. We want Florence Crittenden, the larger structure, to be restored. But it's the chapel itself that is impeding that, because the site needs ingress and egress. So there's context for it. We would love to keep it. We actually originally thought it would be a great, use, but looking at the way the site plan lays out, it does impede ingress and egress and parking to the site. So, understand that may not be relevant as far as BR's decision making, but our hope is that if we are able to demolish the building, it is in pursuit of preserving the larger structure. And so just context for you all. Yeah, happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Beavers. Let's see, board discussion.
So several of us visited the site yesterday, and this was one that I really couldn't discern from the packet itself. So seeing the building was important. And well, I think all of our default positions are to preserve buildings. I don't really think this one passes the test sufficiently regarding its cultural significance or architectural character that it really warrants preservation. The building's not in bad shape, but the applicant's not arguing that it is. The building's extremely modest, and everybody admits that. But I don't think that, and unfortunately, the argument about what might follow is actually something we just can't entertain as a matter of ordinance. But I don't see a compelling argument to sustain this building, considering its really, really modest nature.
And I'm just gonna take off on your words, really modest in nature is the part that's appealing to me. And the contrast that it has with the larger building adjacent to it. When you stand on the either side of it and look towards the street, you feel like you're almost on a bluff. It's such high ground. built to be a part of that structure, particular use. In fairness, I was unable to get inside the building. It was locked. It wasn't accessible. I looked through the doors and it appeared to be, I mean, very intact. I didn't see any evidence of roof leaks. I looked around the stucco on the outside, cracks that would be radiating from doors and windows, and saw none. So I mean, it's I'm spent time on that street, and I've seen that building many times, and I think it's part of the flow of the street, and I appreciate it.
Further board comments?
I agree with the comments of Mr. Metters, and in particular, the staff comments on number 5, that acknowledge the historical culturally important use of the structure and importance to the city, not as a singular building, but as a complex. And I think that that should be taken into consideration. And I think of an old church on Cumberland Island that does nothing more than a shack, but its cultural influence is equal to saving, as it is here.
Additional board comments? Or a motion?
It's not just it's kind of well proportioned and its own merits looking to your own building, which is still, even so, it's storage now, it doesn't matter, it's in good shape, seems to be, so. And we agree with staff.
I'll motion to deny the demolition for this project with board and staff comment.
Okay,
I'll second.
it's in proper order. Ms. Sobchak, how do you vote?
Yeah, in favor.
Yea, in favor of denying the demolition. Mr. White,
Nay, not.
Mr. Brown,
Yea, in favor.
Mr. Matters,
Yeah, no.
and myself, nay, not in favor. Nonetheless, the denial for approval to demolish passes 3-2. Okay. Thank you to the applicant. Agenda item B4, 328 Meeting Street.
Uh, 328 Meeting Street is a Category 2 building in the Olden Historic District, and they are requesting final approval for minor exterior alterations, addition of air handling unit, heat pump, and screening.
And as everybody can see, Mr. Metters is subbing out, or Mr. Ramos rather, subbing in for Mr. Metters.
So I was getting confused.
Now you know, Jay, the time change
I've
this
wondered.
Monday is.
Like who that is.
Here's the aerial of the context. Existing site photos. More context of the church.
And who do we have for the applicant?
I'm Jeremy Tate with Metters. I'm here on behalf of the church, it's Little Square Baptist Church. It's a small project. We're working on numerous phases of this with the church, and there'll be more projects coming. The first one is really just getting interior restrooms into the front lobby, and the exterior alteration is really limited to new air handling units on the north side along Henrietta Street. Do I have control of the slide, or do you? You can go to the third image. Just for context, the area in question, I'll just use this one. It's really going to be the air handling units placed here. The bathroom exists in the bottom of the steeple. We're adding another one on the south end in the lobby, but to get an air handler unit in here, that's about as far as we can take it and reasonably meet manufacturer requirements. We had hoped to get it more into this bay, but that was just pushing the limits on it. Other things that we are doing, there are some exhaust fans, but we're going to utilize these existing foundation vents. It's a sealed crawl space with dehumidifiers already in it. And we're taking the ductwork to the backside of one of those vents, opening it up, putting a plenum behind it. So there's no visual change to the exterior. We're just going to reuse that element. If you could go to the 10th slide. I'll just explain exactly in the detail of on a larger plan where this is. Yeah, the 10th slide. Yeah, so this gives you a plan view of the bathroom in the base of the steeple and how we're using that existing slot vent for the exhaust. You can see the red line, which is the refrigerant line coming through, and the air handle is going to be mounted on a little wooden platform tucked between these two buttresses, and then a wooden screen with a gate will be added. Also, there's two existing exhaust flues for the gas furnaces, and one is crooked. We're going to straighten that out, but that's also why one of the other reasons why we couldn't locate this down is just in conflict with those two elements. And if you could just skip ahead to maybe the 14th slide. It'll just give you a better, one more, there we go. So this just gives you a detailed view of the area. It's on an existing mechanical yard. And the screen just kind of goes between the buttresses. This is an example of what the screen will be. It's wood, it's painted. It's just something simple. And the reason we're before is because it's category 2 structure. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
It's more procedural than anything else, so, but we understand and we appreciate it. Okay, any member of the public wishing to be heard on this agenda item? Seeing none. City staff recommendation.
So by way of context, as sort of mentioned, if minor alterations of a category 2 building visible from the public right of way are required to go before the BAR board. Staff has no conditions, and we recommend final approval with board conditions and final review by staff and permit drawings.
Very good. I'm assuming no response from the applicant. Okay. Board discussion and a vote.
I agree with staff's recommendation.
No motion.
Yeah, final approval with final review by staff of 4 permit drawings.
So the motion is for final approval with review of drawings by staff.
Yeah, 4 permit.
For permit. Okay. Is there a second from the subject? It's in proper order. Mr. Brown, how do you vote?
Yea in favor.
Mr. Ramos? Yea in favor. Ms. Subject? Mr. White?
Yeah, in favor.
Myself, yea in favor. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I can hear you breathe. I'm sorry. I've been accused of that in court. Be a little too fast, quick on the draw. Let's pause while
No,
James.
it's fine. Just giving nobody else has to read.
That's right. Agenda item B5, 120 St. Philip Street. Well, I guess Mr. Brumman can come on up while you do.
Yeah, sure. The structure dates from 1885 and it's in the Olden Historic District, and applicant is requesting final approval for removal of previously approved addition from scope and renovations to the existing structure. So here, showing the context.
Very good. So we'll hear from the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Frank Bromley, the owner of the property, and the owner of the surrounding properties, including Warren Place and 122 and 124 St. Paul. Just to give you that context of our involvement. This has been a work in progress since day one. We acquired this property several years ago. It has evolved, and from an interesting standpoint, we have completed the move of the house to its permanent location now at 121 St. Philip from 15 Ratcliffe Street. So it's there and in place. It's elevated now, and precariously so, we feel that it is, and trying to get the foundation permits approved, which we've been able to accomplish to lower the house starting next week. We needed that elevation and left it there at that roughly 7 feet above grade when we moved it, so that the foundations could be dug and And you could have excavation equipment in, and then the building will be rolled down with new foundations. Probably within 60 days, just as soon as complete. As we've gotten into the design elements of what to actually do with the house, we've become more and more convinced that the house basically should stay as it was originally designed. When we acquired the house, it was two apartments, which the family had converted from a single family house in the 50s or 60s, and it had 2 meters. We removed one of those meters and took the ability for the second apartment out of the building. We moved it with our preference being to revert it to a single family house. That's been accomplished and registered with the city, so there's going to be the 1 meter registered for the property. As we got into it and speaking with the family and also looking at the floor plan of the house, it has 4 bedrooms already. It's a large house. It's the largest house on the block. It's with the addition we had proposed, it was going to be even larger in the neighborhood and somewhat overwhelming. And we came back to the conclusion, and there were a couple of board comments at our original proposal that we had not discussed additions to the house when we were talking about the move, and also the fact of whether or not a screen porch was appropriate in that neighborhood. So we've gone back to our architect and basically decided that addition ought to be, the addition of the screen porch and the family room ought to be a decision made by future owners of the house and not us. So the house renovations that we're proposing will be basically exactly as originally designed. When we moved it, we removed the staircase on the rear of the house that was added when the second apartment was constructed. So we took that off, and so the house that you see sitting on 126 Phillip Street lot is the house as it originally was designed and conceived on 15 Radcliffe. And we think that's a positive for the situation. Our long-term plan is not to own these properties. We own the 2 houses next door. And they're obviously historic properties that need to be carefully maintained. We're currently spending money painting and re-roofing and changing out windows and doing a number of things to 124, which was our most recent acquisition. But we feel this house, basically the best thing to do is to keep it as it is. We've been communicating with the Bennett family who originally built the house. They're comfortable with it either way. But our long-term plan, probably within 3 to 5 years, is to sell these properties and have them incorporated back into the neighborhood as single-family houses. And that's what, as compared to student housing, which they are now. And so that's our long-term goal. And in keeping with that, we've asked our architect, Joe Schmidt, to come back to the board and say that we would like for the decision to make any additions be with the subsequent owner, not with us. We come back before the board and make an application. We think this is the right thing to do for the house. Thank you very much.
Mr. Schmidt, thank you. Anything to add?
No, I would say it's just an architect with a large appetite, like the owner into pushing the envelope. It is quite a big house. In fact, even the Bennetts, when they lived there, had borders. So everything this house needs, it actually has. I'm very, very content with it either way.
Very good. Any member of the public wishing to be heard on this agenda item? Yes, sir.
Evening, James Doyle, Vice President, Radcliffe Neighborhood Association. You're right, it's been a lengthy process. The Neighborhood Association's position throughout this was if the house has to be moved to be saved, then we support that. Consequently, this board required a preservation plan. Is the neighborhood association's position that you should stick to the plan.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Appreciate that. Any other member of the public wishing to be heard on this agenda item? Okay, city staff comments, recommendations.
The removal of the addition from scope of work supports the architectural integrity of the historic property. We have no staff conditions and staff recommends final approval with board, it should say board conditions and final review by staff of current drawings.
Okay, very good. Thank you, BD. Board, just, any response from the applicant? Board discussion. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
I would say we have followed the preservation plan.
I was gonna comment or get in there that is to the best of my knowledge, that the addition or lack thereof was not impacted by the preservation plan, just the other things we talked about, including some of the elements with the foundation and the site. So, got it. Board comments.
I agree with staff's recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion if it's.
Sure.
Make a motion for following through with board and staff comments.
So Mr. Meadows' motion is for final approval with board and staff comments, final review by staff.
Final review by staff.
You're good. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Motion's in proper order. Mr. Brown, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Nameplate,
It still
Mr. Meathers.
says
I know who you are, Mr.
problems.
Meathers.
Yes, yeah, favor.
Ms. Sochan,
Yeah.
Mr. White, and myself, you in favor. Thank you. And Mr. Doyle, to be clear, just so you know, and you can relay to your neighborhood association, that preservation plan has been complied with. So, but thank you for being a good neighborhood watchdog. Thank you. Okay, agenda item number B6 has been withdrawn. So our business is concluded this evening. Thank you to you all. And Mr. Brown, I was gonna make sure it said the record, you've been vindicated, so. I told you when you